Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Prashant Shoria and I'm a final year undergraduate student. So today we'll discuss about square root decomposition. Mm. The essence is clear that you have a you have something and you divide it into blocks and you deal with each block at a time. So I'll go through all of these, the first few on arrays, on objects, on trees, elements only merge, and Mohs algorithm. These I would categorize as easy, and these I would categorize as hard. So these are rare. The last few are rare. Uh, can you see my cursor? Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are rare. They are good to know, but they don't appear as frequently. But if you just know the first few, then you can solve all the square root decomposition problems from 2300 to 2500 rating on code forces. So let's see. I couldn't get hold of PowerPoint, so the basic problem that I'll begin with is you are given an array and you are given queries on it. So the first query is you are supposed to find the sum of range LR. That is, you are given a range LR and you are asked to find AL plus 1 until AR. And the second query is AI is equals to X. So this is an update query where you have to set a value at some index. So what we will do is we divide it into blocks of size k is equals to root n, and then what we do is we store the sum for each block. So suppose this is my array and I have divided it into blocks of size root n each. Say. So whenever I am given a query LR that I am supposed to find the sum of, so I am given this query. So what I do is I consider the sum of these two blocks. I pre-calculate the sum of all the blocks. I consider this sum and I can traverse over these boundaries separately. So since each block has length root n, so this boundary here I won't have to go more than root n. So I'll have to brute force over root n values. Here I will have to brute force over root n values, and the number of blocks that can lie in between is at most n by root n is equals to root n. So that will give me 3 root n steps per query. So it's good, but can any one of you suggest me that it is optimal? Uh, if you are already familiar with square root decomposition, then I can definitely say that you have heard of this version before, but let me break your bubble. This is not optimal. There is another solution. What I mean by optimal is it good to break into k is equals to root n length blocks? Can I not choose k is equals to n raised to 1 by 3 length blocks? So
It will increase the complexity of AI equal to X operation.
yeah, actually it will, but we'll see a slight variation of it. We don't need this decomposition. Like we do not need to decompose it into square root n blocks and store the sum for each. So we will tweak our algorithm a little bit, and we'll find similar to square root algorithm, and we will do it in n raised to 4 by 3. So that's n raised to 4 by 3 is n into n raised to 1 by 3, and that's obviously better than n into n raised to 1 by 2, right? So we'll do it later. So time complexity is for each query we have to go through 3 root n optimal choices. So we get OQ root n. So until here it's fine, right, for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it will get interesting from now. So now you are given many strings. So here you are not given an array, and you are not asked with queries on ranges. So here you are given some objects, and sub objects have some values in them. They can be anything. Say you are asked to find you are asked knapsack just with the condition that each item can appear multiple times. So you have knapsack problem, where there are k items C1, C2, Ck with cost C1, C2, Ck, but they can appear multiple times P1, P2, Pk, and each has a value V1, V2, Vk. So you are asked the minimum value, maximum value you can get within a knapsack of size W. So these problems fall in this category where you will have to do square root decomposition on object size. So for example, uh, here you are given n strings, and you are asked that for each string, if it is a substring of t is a fixed string, like. So what do you one more condition that is given, that the sum of length of query strings is less than or equals to L. So because it cannot be arbitrarily high, it has to fit in some real world constraint like 10 raised to 5. So what do we do here? So we do we do not have ranges here. We have objects. So we divide objects depending on their size. We categorize objects depending. So we categorize objects depending on their size. So if a string has size less than root n, I'll call it light, and if it has size greater than root n, then I'll call it heavy. So what I'll do for light string is uh, this is my string t, and this is my heavy string. Suppose it is big enough, so I'll do brute force, and I'll check if they are same. If it is a substring of this, so it will take. Okay. Sorry, I think this is wrong. You cannot do brute force here. You will have to actually do KMP. So this part is a bit wrong. So what you do is, so the first solution that comes to my head at least is that how do you match two strings? How do you find if a why is it slowing down? How do, if given two strings A, what's happening? Sorry, for some reason my laptop is slowing down. Just give me a minute. What's happening? Is this a problem? Is it with the stars? That's what problem with this dialog. So yeah, it's not brute force. It's not brute force. So when you are given two strings A and B and you have to check if B is a substring of A, this is a standard problem that you do with KMP. So this is my string A and this is my string B, that I have to check if this B string is a substring here somewhere. So I create a new string B plus hashtag plus A, and the algorithm KMP figures out if in linear time if B is a substring here, if B occurs somewhere here. So that takes O mod A plus hashtag mod A plus mod B time. So but can I do KMP here for all the strings?
The complexity will be q into the size of A or size of T.
So the complexity will be Q into, there is no Q here. It's actually N. So the complexity will be size of T. Yeah, that's right. So this would be the complexity, but that's too high. So what we will do is we will just do it for heavier strings. So we know that there are at most Rutel heavier strings. Oh man, it's so fucked up. This slide is so fucked up. I'll change it later. So it's not root n, it's root l. It's root l. So mod si is less than or greater than root l. So if the string is heavy, if a string is heavy, then I'll do KMP that will take mod t plus mod si time. And since there are root l such strings, so this will be my time complexity, root l mod t plus this will be l, because we are summing the length of strings, it cannot cross l. So and for the light strings, what I can do is for all the substrings of size less than or equals to root l of my original string t. So there can be only mod t into root l such substrings. So for all these substrings, I'll store their hashes and I can compare them. Is that fine?
So L is the length of the given string capital T, no? Or
No. L is the length of sum of lengths of all strings. So
okay.
there is a lot of mess here. So I'll correct it right away, but I'll post the updated slides later too. Okay.
So why don't we just use hashing for even the heavy strings?
Okay. Do hashing, but in that case, you will have to hash all of the substrings. But there are quadratic number of substrings, right? There are n square
Yes,
substrings.
yes.
So how will you hash n square substrings? So I am just hashing all the substrings that have length less than root n. So for each length, there will be at most mod t substrings. So there can be at most root l mod t substrings, light substrings, right? I can hash all of them because it's feasible. But if I hash all of the substrings of t, including the heavier one whose have size greater than root l, then there are mod t into mod t minus 1 substrings. So that will be too costly, right? Okay, so there is some confusion here, I guess. So we are not hashing the query strings, we are hashing substrings of t. Okay, is that clear now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so just for correcting it, mod si here is supposed to be less than root l and here greater than root l, and it will take the same amount of time. but here it should be t root L plus L. And here, because I'm hashing all smaller substrings of t, it will be 2t root L, not t mod root t. It won't be that. Okay. So if that's clear. Okay, so in case you miss some point here or there, I prepared a Codeforces contest that will start today at 9 p.m. So you can give that, you can discuss solutions there in comment later on, or I'll uh, create another video with the solving those problems. Okay. So now we'll discuss a bit about square root decomposition on trees. So on trees there are many parameters. So it is not a hard code rule on what property you have to apply square root decomposition. You look at the problem and you see. So I'm just discussing some variations of what I have seen already frequently appearing in problems. So it's not a hard code rule. So there is only one problem in which I have seen this, and when you see that problem, it should be recognizable that how you have to use square root decomposition. Maybe sometime later you may come across a problem where you'll have to do square root decomposition on not on degree. Maybe it's a directed graph and you have to do square root decomposition on in degree, say, or out degree. So that's on you to look at the problem and figure out how do you want to decompose the graph, decompose the structure. So let's consider this problem. So you'll have to find the number of triangles in a graph. So can anybody tell me if there is, okay, can anybody tell me of any brute force approach? By number of triangles I mean three sized cycles, three length cycles. You have to find vertices A, B, C such that AB they form a cycle. Okay, so can anybody unmute themselves and tell me any basic approach, brute force?
We can start a DFS and we will have a array, like we have a three sized array in which we have the last three nodes visited, and then we can like update it and we can store it in a vector, and like we can like we must see that okay, so the size should be 4, and we must see that if the first and the last of the pair of the tuple is the same or not.
Okay. I got you, but yeah, that would be quadratic, right? No, that would be cubic. Okay, so uh, you can just you can just choose any three vertices. You can just choose all three vertices, all NC3 pairs, and check if there is an edge between all of them, right? So that is one approach, that is NC3, that is cubic, but the number of edges is also constrained. So the number of edges is also, say, less than 10 raised to 5. It's also linear in n. So number of edges is not very high. It's not. It's so you can avoid avoid checking all three pair of vertices. But what you can do, you can fix this. Suppose you can fix an edge, and for each edge you can check if there is a vertex. For each edge you check if there are any vertices for which both of its edge both endpoints of this edge are connected to which. So for each edge I do OM into n, right? So M is for each edge, and then I brute force on all other vertices that can be the third point of this triangle. That's okay, right?
Yes.
Shouldn't there be a login considered like if we use, like we have to
Okay.
check that if
Is
it's present in the edge?
hash. So we have edges stored in hashes. Assume that we have a hash table that can we store all the edge pairs UV in hash table. Okay, so whenever you want to check if there is an edge between U and V, you just query that hash table
Yes, yes.
for this
Okay.
pair. Okay, so as in most of the square root decomposition problem, where you use the brute force for heavier vertices and you use some trick for light vertices, so it will be the same. We will use this exactly this brute force, that we will fix an edge and we will choose the third vertex even in this problem. Okay.
How do we define heavy and light here?
Okay, so I'm defining it here. So since we are using decomposition or degree, so okay, let me give you some intuition first. So mm, so whenever you are considering a vertex, okay, and if it has very few if it has very few neighbors, right, so you can just brute force over all pairs in its neighbors and you can find if they are connected, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the intuition. So if the degree is small enough, then I can do it by brute force. So that when I got that intuition, I'll try to figure out what if the degree is large enough, because if the degree of some vertex is n by 2, I cannot check for every of these pairs, right? So that's the intuition behind it. And what we do is, if the degree is light, okay, first I'll consider this. So if the degree is light, that is, if the vertex is light, that is, if the degree is less than root m. So I call that vertex light. Otherwise, I call that vertex heavy uh, if if it has a lot many neighbors. So if the vertex is heavy, then I'll do the brute force I just told you, because if the vertex is heavy, then there are at most two root m heavy vertices, or o root m, whatever. So there are o root m heavy vertices at most, because sum of degrees is 2m. So if the degree is greater than root m, there cannot be more than two root m vertices with degree greater than root m. Otherwise, this sum will cross to m, right? This is okay, right?
Yes.
Sum of degrees is 2m, to the number of edges, because each edge is counted twice. Okay. So don't look here. I'll explain this part later. So what I do is, for each of the heavy vertices, there are at most two root m heavy vertices. What I do is, for each of the heavy vertices, I consider all the edges. I consider all the edges and I check if this is connected to both of them, both of these. So this takes OM for each vertex, and there are at most two root m heavy vertices. So this is, I'm into two root m, right? This is 2m root m. So I'm done for heavy vertices, and I'm also done for light vertices, as I told you, just by brute force. What we do for light vertices is, we just check all the pairs. We we start at a light vertex and we check all its neighbors that are less than or equals to root m, and we check all the pairs, right? So how much time will it take? It will take degree v the whole square custom. Okay, but can anyone directly prove that it's less than or equals to 2m root m? I have marked it in red because it appears so many times. Like, it appears in almost every other square root decomposition problem. That
The number of light edges will be 2 root m, like the maximum, and
No,
so
this is for the light vertices. For heavy vertices, we have already done. It is 2m root m. M into 2 root m. That's okay. But I'm now asking for the light vertices because suppose these can be many. Okay, so if you consider that uh, these can be many, suppose m is 1000, m is 10 raised to 4, then there can be many light vertices with degree 2, 2, 2. There can be 10 raised to 4 by 2 such vertices, right? So
yes.
in that case, it would be 10 raised to 4 by 2 into 4. So the point here is the point here is that even though, so suppose when is this inequality actually achieved? Can you figure that out? Because when every vertex is root m, okay, so I change it. It should be 2 here and m there. So consider all of them as asymptotic. Don't go over the constant. So when every degree is root m, so that's it can lie between 0 and root m. Degree of vertices here, right? So when every degree is root m, then I get root m the whole square into there can be root m vertex in that case. So it will be root m into m, right? But it's not necessary that they will achieve this inequality always, right? So consider the other case. Uh, so did anyone figure it out? How can we do it? It's actually simple. You can just say degree v into degree v, and this is actually sigma of degree v into root m, because this is less than or equals to root m, right? And sigma of degree v is what it is, it's less than m. Okay, you all understood that, right?
Won't that be less than equal to 2m? Like the
Yeah,
sum of
I,
degree.
I'm just saying that don't go over the constant, just worry about the asymptotics here. Okay, it would be less than 2m. So my point is that this will appear many and many times. So what you are supposed to do, that whenever you are making any structure on square root decomposition, you, for light vertices, you can use quadratic time. So it's powerful. If you are able to appreciate it, it's powerful enough, because I can do a lot many things in quadratic time, and I can, it's really too much of power. Okay, this part is clear, right? So then
Yes.
I'll move on to, okay, this is LCA. So we can also decompose, we can also use square root decomposition by height. Suppose we are given a tree. So I decompose it by a height. I decompose it in blocks of, suppose the total height is, suppose the number of vertices is n, then I decompose the tree into, divide the tree into blocks of height root n. Okay, and what I do is similar to binary weightlifting, but I only store here the root nth ancestor. So for any vertex, I can store its root nth ancestor. I don't store it. I don't store that. I don't store that. I just store its ancestor in the last block. I just store its ancestor in the last block here. I just store its ancestor in the last block here. Okay. So that's what I do. And whenever I have any two vertices, so I can check if their root and ancestors are common, are same. If they are not same, then I can move up. Right, I can move up here, I can move up here, and then I can again check it. And until they are same, I can decrease my depth by root n again and again and again, and I'll have to decrease my depth at most by root n. So whenever they are in the same block, I can then just brute force, like when I don't want to move to the next block. Right, suppose the situation, you arrive at a situation when they are both in the same block. Say it's like this. So both, so both have their root and ancestor here, and they have the same ancestor, but it's in a different block. So now I'll have to go up only by root n. I can brute force move each one of each move a step each time. I just move from V to its parent, and I'll figure this vertex out. You got
Like
the
if
idea?
if it's like if we get the ancestors to be same, then we like move parent by parent and we check.
Yeah. But first we will have to get their depth same. Once we have their depth same, we move in steps of root n until we get both their ancestors same. And once we have their ancestors same, we move step by step, parent by parent. Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next part. Next part is interesting. It's a problem from recent CodeChef long challenge. So many of you guys would have seen this problem already. So you are given a tree, and you are asked many queries, and in a query you are given two vertices that are on the same level. So suppose you are given this vertex and you are given this vertex, and they define a product. Each vertex is assigned a number. Okay, not index. Each vertex is assigned as index. So what you do is, if these vertices are chosen, so you have to product their index, and you have to find the product of their index and its index. So, and you will have to sum them all. So if FBI denotes the ith ancestor of B, ith ancestor of B. So then what you'll have to do is you have to multiply their corresponding ancestors, and you have to find that sum, UI. You have to find that sum. So did anyone solve that problem before? It's November long challenge, I guess. It's not very old. Okay, so let's move to the solution. So what
Can be
I
solved using normal LCA also, no?
how can we solve it using normal LCA?
Like we store the product in the like first we have to. Okay, so yeah, it's not possible.
Got it, right. So what we do in normal LCA is, no, in normal LCA, the ancestor depends on just this vertex. So I'll just have to find this vertex, right? So I can find its second parent. But what I want here is, you are given two query vertexes. Okay, so I'll have to find product of these two, then product of these two, then product of these two, and then product of these two. So you can, this vertex can be queried with any other vertex that is on the same level. So there is no way to know which index to multiply it with, right? So you cannot really use LCA here.
Yes. We can store the sum, but we cannot like correspondingly like
Yeah,
multiply.
the corresponding term, right? So, so the first thought when I saw this problem, the first thought that came in my mind is, what if we pre-compute it for all the values, all the pairs, because they've already added the constraint that they are on the same level, right? So I don't have to pre-compute it for all the pairs, all the pairs, all the n into n minus 1 by 2 pairs, right? But I'll have to just compute it for the pairs that are on the same level. So that's not much. Maybe I can do that. But then I thought of this example when a vertex has very high degree. So they are all on the same level, and I'll have to compute it for all the levels, all the pairs. So that is eventually the same, n minus 1, n minus 2 by 2. That is almost the same. So I cannot actually compute for all the levels. So the problem, if you see here, is that some levels have too many vertices. So you cannot actually do it for those levels. So therefore, I here classify levels into two types: light and heavy levels. Light levels are the ones that have less than or equals to root n number of vertices on them. So this is again similar to what we discussed before. We have light levels that have less number of vertices. So I can pre-compute it for I can pre-compute for them in num square ways, like, and that's gonna be less than n root n, right? And for heavy levels, okay, I'll have to explain it a bit more. So if you realize here that there like all the square root decomposition problems, there will be less than root n number of heavy levels, right? That's fine, right?
Yes.
Less than root n number of heavy levels. So suppose I'm on ith level. I'm on ith level, and ith level has all these vertices. So I have the answer pre-computed for all the levels above that are light. Suppose if I add many vertices here, suppose this level is not light, this is heavy. There are many vertices there, and this level is light, and this is also light. So what I do is, suppose I am on ith level and I have the answer pre-computed for each pair on a light level. So I'll have to compute answer for this level. Okay. So consider any pair and the above level is light. What I can do is I can just compute its answer by multiplying these two, and I can get the answer of this pair. Right. You got it right. So assuming that the above level is light, so I have to find the answer for this pair. I have to pre-compute it actually. So I have answer for this pair pre-computed beforehand. So I can pre-compute for this too, right? In O1 time. Okay. Answer of xy is equals to uh, x into y plus answer of parent x comma parent y, right? So we can get that, and this will take because we are computing it for each pair. This will take n root n time and memory. So, and for the heavy levels, what we'll do is we'll for heavy level, for a query that involves heavy levels, we'll move up. Uh, finding the product, summing it until we find a light level, because when we have found a light level, we know the answer for that pair, right? And we'll not have to cross more than root n root n heavy levels because there are only that many of them. So each for a query on a heavy level nodes, that will take root n per query, and we can answer them in O1 for light level nodes with n root n pre-computing.
Can you explain the part why the the length we are moving is just root 10 and not more than that?
Because there are only root n heavy levels, right?
Okay, okay, yes. So it has to end, like we have to get
Yeah,
a light
I
level.
I will sometime hit a light level, and that's not more than root n levels apart, right?
Yes.
So there, I discussed three of them, but it's on the intuition. Like in earlier problem where I discussed that. What did I discuss? Yeah, in this problem where I discussed the number of triangles, the intuition was that you can compute it for light degree nodes. So you tried to decompose the graph or tree, whatever, or by degree, and but here you use square root decomposition on level because that seemed intuitive. So there are no hardcore rules, but you have to figure it out based on your intuition.
Prasad, on it, the example that you were given in the previous, that the level one, if the level one is very heavy, there are number of nodes are many, and for level 2 or level 3 they are light. So for computing any pair in the level 2 or level 3, so you have to already compute the all the decomposition of level 1. So how do you do that?
What can you? So you are saying
Uh,
that there is a chance that if level 4 is light,
yes,
so level 3 might be heavy. Are you saying that?
yes, yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, I ignored it intentionally because that's a little bit hard to explain. Okay, you can intuitively get it, but it's a little bit hard to explain. So consider this situation. So what he said is maybe level 3 is heavy, but level 4 is light, right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
I don't have answer pre-computed for this, but I need answer pre-computed for this. So
Yes, yes, yes.
what I do in this case? So the thing is, what I assume that it will work in O1, it won't be the case anymore. What I'll precisely do is I will pre-compute it like I am doing a query on heavy levels. I'll pre-compute it. I'll pre-compute them all in this way. Like I'll store I'll store their product, then I'll store their product and I'll move up and up. Okay, consider these two. I'll store their product, I'll store their product, I'll store their product, and I move until I find a light level. Okay, but some of you might point out that this will take root n more time. Okay, so there are num I square pairs, and it might feel like that it will take num I square into root n time, right? So that will be O n square. So does anyone feel this, or is it already intuitive that you won't need that much time? So you got the problem, right? You all understood the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So the point here is, consider this. Okay, I am claiming that even though for some levels you might take more time, but amortized you won't take more time than n root n. By amortized I mean that in total you will just take n root n time. So for this let's what give me a second. So suppose this level is light, this level is this level is this level is heavy, this level is, excuse me, give me a second, it's not working. My stylus is broken, I guess. Working now. Just a glitch. So yeah, suppose this is light level, this is heavy level, this is heavy level, this is heavy level. Okay, then this is again a light level. Okay, so all these heavy levels, hello,
Yes.
can you hear me now? Yeah. So all these heavy levels, these will only act on all these pairs. So, so each heavy level can act on at most one light level. Because if there is another light level beneath it, so it will just approach this light level, right? It cannot approach that heavy level. It cannot pass that heavy level. So I am saying when you are pre-computing this answer moving above and above, so you move above because this is heavy, so I don't have answer pre-computed for this, and I go above and I go more above until I hit this level. Now I have answer pre-computed for these two. Okay, because that level is light, right?
Yes, yes,
So
yes, yes.
what I am saying is, suppose consider this heavy level. Okay, so this will only be counted when you are considering this light level. Okay, so if any light level is above it or if any light level is below it, it won't be counted. It will be counted just for one light level. I mean, you will have to pass this heavy level only for at most one light level, right?
Okay, got it. Yes.
Okay, so there are root and light levels, and there can be O root and the whole square pairs in, sorry, in the heavy levels, and there can be O root and the whole square pairs in light level. So each of them will affect at most O root. Each heavy level will affect at most O n pair. So that will add O n root n extra to the complexity. That is same. Okay. So for this level, if suppose this level has these are root n levels, all root n levels here, and these are root n plus 1. Okay, plus 1, let's say it's plus 1 and this is minus 1. So for this level, the time taken is, it's arbitrarily high. It's not O1 for each pair, it's O root n for each pair. But if you take it to, if you total it up, if you sum it up, the time taken for this level is O n root n. But you know, these heavy levels won't be able to interfere again, right? So
Yes.
that's the intention. So they'll interfere only once for each level. Okay. So let's move to, okay, this is my favorite version, and I'm pretty sure that it's so less well known, but you can solve so many hard problems from this version, and it's part two. It's version two. So this is pretty interesting. This is pretty easy, but it's so fucking powerful that you can almost solve all the problems if the constraints are not that strict. So not all problems, all query problems, I mean. So yeah. So what you do is, okay. So in the general square root decomposition, what we did was we have an array. Let's draw it here. We have an array, and we divided it into square root n parts. Okay, square root root n blocks, right? So a query, when I had a query from here to here, okay, so you know it already if you have been doing enough competitive programming that uh, that the 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 queries can be pretty complex. Like the queries can be find number of integers greater than x in the range L to R, right? Or they can be even more complicated, like find number of distinct elements in the range L to R. They can be anything. So for not for every query, you cannot always, you can not always find a fixed value here for this block and for a fixed value here, and you can merge these two. Suppose consider an easy example where you are given an array. You are given an array and you are given queries LR, find number of inversions in range LR. Can you do it with square root decomposition? Suppose you try to do it with square root decomposition. You have number of inversions here, you have number of inversions here, you have number of inversions here, and this is my query. So what you are doing here is you have number of inversions here, you have number of inversions here, but how will you figure out the number of inversions in these two? You got me? The problem here is you cannot merge two ranges.
Yes, we will have to again see into the elements of that other ranges.
Yeah. So
Yes,
I'll
yes.
present you a better solution. So I'll modify my square root decomposition in such a way that I'll not have to merge ranges. So uh, I'll only have to merge elements. So what we did is consider the same problem again. There are root n blocks, right? And I have this query. I have number of inversions here and number of inversions here. I cannot merge them because these are ranges, but I can merge, probably assume that I can easily merge uh, elements. Suppose if this is my array. So for now, just assume that you can actually do it with a segment tree. For now, just assume that you can add an element after it, and you can find how much it how much it contributes to number of inversions in O log n. Okay, just assume that you can do it for now. You can do it with the segment tree, with a little bit complicated segment tree, but just assume that you can do it for now. The thing I'm trying to tell is you can easily add an element to a range, but you cannot add another range to a range. So that is the problem. So what I'll do here is, what if I pre-compute the answer for all this big range? I can do that, right? So then I'll have to extend just over this part and over this part. And these are two root n elements, right? So if I just compute the answer, if I just compute the answers for all the blocks, then all the multiple blocks, all the pair of blocks, then I can just extend it through here and here, right? And this will be not too many blocks. So I'll give a precise description of this. You got the intuition, right? What I'm trying to do here.
So one thing I wanted to ask that like we will have to find the contribution of the element for each of the root and size blocks, right?
No, no,
Or
no. What I'm saying is, suppose when you have two ranges and you are trying to find the total answer. You have answer for this, you have answer for this.
yes,
Okay. But suppose I have answer for the whole complete range. I have
okay,
pre-computed answer for this range too. Like,
yes,
okay, now when I have to add just one element, so I can count that answer easily.
yeah, in log of that size. If
Yeah,
we are convert, if we are finding inversions.
yeah. Okay, I can count. One second. I can count that answer easily, but I cannot do it. So I have named it. I usually call it online moves, but it's not moves actually. But I have got used to calling it online moves. So whatever. So what we are doing is I've started to call it element only merge because in normal square root decomposition, you have to merge the ranges. When you do sum 1 plus sum 2, you have to use you add the sum of all the ranges, right? And then you have to extend these ranges to these blocks. If this was my range, then you have to add these sums and add this sum, right? But now I'll pre-compute the answer for this bigger segment, and I'll just extend to these elements. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is the idea clear? I'll give a precise description right now, but are you getting the intuition of it?
Yes, but won't it affect the
Yeah, time
complexity?
complexity. Yeah, we'll come to it. It will, but it won't actually. So yeah, so what we'll do is we have divided into blocks, and we pre-compute answer starting at each block and ending at each block. So if here there are just 3 blocks, if there were 4 blocks, then I would have calculated answer for this even. I've calculated answer for this. I've calculated answer for this. I mean, starting at each block and ending at each block. So, yeah. Now let's come to the time complexity. So suppose, what's that? Yeah. Suppose for each of the segments here, I need to suppose I divided it into blocks of size x. Okay, I'm not using x is equals to root n here. That part is gone. So I'm using blocks of size x, and then there will be n by x blocks, right?
Yes.
And I'll calculate the answer, pre-compute the answer starting at each block and ending at each block. So that will take n by x the whole square into f. If the answer what I am calculating is takes f time to store. Suppose I am storing, it's so powerful that suppose I can even store on for each block, on memory for each block. Okay, so there are so many blocks, there are n by x the whole square pair of blocks whose sum is I am already calculating, and then for each of them I am storing OF memory. Okay, say for now f is on. Okay, is that fine? Suppose to give you an example, when we are just trying to figure out the sum of a range, as I told you earlier that there is a better algorithm. So when we are just trying to figure out the sum, we can see that for each of the blocks we have to just store the sum, and that is O1. So f is O1 in that case. But for each of the blocks we can probably even store a graph, so that will be On linear. Is that okay? So
Yes. So for case of inversions, what will it be like
okay,
the
okay. In case of inversions, what we will have to store, we will have to store a segment tree that will take On, f is equals to On, and the number of inversions, that is On. So it will be On in overall. Okay. Okay, is that fine? So it sounds very uncomforting that we can actually do all of this, but we can. Believe me, there are so many hard problems you can solve with this trick. So for so what we do in case of inversion is we divide it into blocks of x, blocks of length x, and for each of the for each of the for each of the segment that starts at a block and ends at a block, for all those n by x square pairs, we store a segment tree specifically for that. Okay, so now I have got f into n by x the whole square time for just pre-computing it. Okay, and then for each query, okay, I have omitted log n here for segment tree, but for each query, what I can do is I can suppose solve it in O1. Okay, I can extend an element in O1. I am given a range, and after a range, I can add an element in just O1. Then each query will take q into 2x time. So when you solve it and when you put x is equals to n raised to 2 by 3 f raised to 1 by 3, I just differentiated it and got this value. You get this time complexity. Okay, did you get? Did you now get any intuition of what we are trying to do?
We are trying to find the size of the block based on the operation we do to merge, kind of like to find the answer.
And now we are not merging ranges. We are just extending a range by an element. Okay. So now let's consider a hard problem. Hard problem that uses this. Okay, so this is a hard problem. This is really very hard. If it were to come on Codeforces, it would probably be rated 26 or 2700, not lesser than that, I guess. That's just my opinion. So you are given a graph with m labeled edges and q queries, and you are trying to find out for each query where you are given LR, the largest connected component, if edges in range LR are considered. So there are so many edges, but you will have to consider edges only in this range, and you will have to construct a graph based on only those edges, and it will result in some connected components, and you have to find the size of a maximum connected component. So how will you do that?
We need a DSU kind of structure.
But can we? Okay, maybe rollback using rollback. I don't think we can do it with rollback. I'll check if it's solvable with Moz, but I don't think it's solvable with Moz. It's actually not, because the order can vary, so it's not solvable with Moz. So because you'll have to remove elements too, right? Because uh, in Moz you can add suppose element here, but you may have to remove element from here too. A Moz algorithm. So I'll come to that later. So here you are given a graph and q queries, and for each query you have to find the largest connected component in that range using edges of that range. So can you think of a solution using what we just discussed? So suppose you are given a graph. So suppose I pre-computed a graph for all possible. I computed it into. I broke it down into blocks, and I computed answer for each block pair. So I have answer for this, and I have to extend it only a little here and a little there. So, and for each pair of block, I have also computed a graph. So now suppose when I'm answering a query, I have a compressed graph here. By a compressed graph, I mean that I have the connected components graph. So in each, I have a connected component as a node, and I have this connected component as a node, and this connected component as a node. Okay. So I know the size of the largest connected component here, and now I have to add a few more edges here and there. So what I do is, if I have to add an edge in between these and in between these, so that will connect these two components of mine, right? And I can just suppose I added x elements, x edges, x more edges, then I can just check what all components those X edges connected, and then I can figure out that it those X edges connected these two connected components. So the size for this will be sum1 plus sum2. The size 1 plus size 2, and then size 3. Size 1, size 2. So what I'm trying to make a point of is that these OX, these X elements these X edges that I'm trying to add will only affect at most 2X components. Okay, so I can check those 2X components by hand, that what is the final maximum size there, and so those are only updated. So the rest of the other components, they they have some largest component size, and I know that I have pre-computed it. So I can find, so that's stored largest ij, that's for block pair. So I can find the answer maximum of that largest ij, and the size I will get now. Is it clear? I'll try explaining it again probably.
What will be the complexity of the pre-computation we do here?
Okay. So what we are doing is, so x in this case would be n raised to 2 by 3. So let me take this example. Okay, so what I am doing is I am dividing it into n raised to 1 by 3 blocks. So yeah, it's heavy block size, larger block size than usual. So less number of blocks and larger block size. Okay, so you asked about the complexity, right?
Is complexity of the pre-computation, like you do.
So, so let's take this example. So we are dividing it into, if you remember it correctly, then it's nf raised to 1 by 3, n raised to 1 by 3, f raised to 1 by 3. So that's n raised to 2 by 3 here. So I am dividing it into blocks of n raised to size n raised to 2 by 3. So there will
X,
be,
the answer for X was n to the power 2 by 3, f to the power 1 by 3, I think.
okay, so I'll probably correct that. So
Yes.
maybe no, it's not supposed to be this, because n square by x square, x cube, and and it's supposed to be n raised to 1 by
1 by 3, yes, so it should be 1 by 3.
I'll correct that later. So yeah, consider this. Consider this, x is equals to n raised to 1 by 3, f raised to 1 by 3, and I am saying that f is on. Just believe me for a while. I'll tell you what all we will store. So I have broken it down into x n raised to 1 by 3 blocks. So I'll pre-compute answer for uh, all segments that start at a block and end at a block. So this is a segment that start at a block and end at a block. This is a segment. This is a segment. This is a segment, right? Then this is a segment. Then this is a segment that will compute answer for all these segments. So it might sound that it will get computationally very heavy, but it will be just n root n if this storage is not very high. It's better than n root n actually. So what we'll do here is, for each of those ranges, suppose this, what I'll store is I'll store a graph that takes O(n) space. Okay, so there are n raised to 2 by 3 such pairs, right? N raised to 2 by 3 such pairs, and
Yes.
I'll store an O(n) graph for it. So what I'll store in graph is it's compressed. The it's not the usual graph, but if all these vertices are in the same component, then I'll store them as a node, and I'll store all of them as a node. Okay, So each node is an independent, each connected component is an independent node, right?
Yes.
And I'll store for each vertex which node it belongs to, which component it belongs to. Okay, and so what am I storing is compressed graph. Second, which node we belong to, and the third is largest connected component, largest component. Okay, so how much time will it take? So on for each block, that means it takes n raised to 5 by 3 time, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, it's close to n square, but I have used it in a problem and it passed. So yeah, so it takes n raised to 5 by 3 times. So if you just realize that if you didn't use this on time for on space for each of the blocks, if you just use f is equals to o1 space in many problems, you just use some suppose some value that you want to figure out. So the complexity will be just n raised to 4 by 3. That is even better than n root n. And that's what I said, that n root n is not optimal uh, for square root decomposition for sum. So if you are storing sum for each of the ranges, then n raised to 4 by 3 is optimal. Okay. This example is to just get uh, uh, have you some intuition of this concept?
Yes. Why it will be 4 by 3? Not.
What?
Yes, I get like why it should be 4 by 3. Like
Yeah, yeah, because f will be over there. So the amount that I'm storing for each is on, and then it will be o n raised to 5 by 3, and or n raised to 5 by 3 for each block. Oh, sorry, overall pre-computation. And whenever I'm using a query, whenever I'm doing a query, what I do is uh, I have this range and I'll have to extend it by n raised to 1 by 3 here and n raised to 1 by 3 there. Okay, so what I do is there are so many components in this range. I add dummy edges between them, and remember I'll have to remove these edges because I cannot copy that structure again, because that will take O and time for a query. So I'll dirty this structure. In a sense, I'll use this structure itself. I will add edges in this structure itself, and I'll remove these edges. Okay, so I will add edges in this structure because I know the component for each vertex belongs to. So yeah, we can figure out the largest size component from here just by using a single DFS among the components that are affected. That's right, right?
yes, sir.
It's very implementation heavy. It won't be less than 100 lines, but yeah, it's just to give you a theoretical example. So this method is clear, right? It's my favorite of all time. So shall I move? Okay,
Yes.
so uh, another version of it is, yeah, you you still don't want to move. Okay, you still don't want to merge ranges. You hate merging ranges. So what you do is for each i store answer for all root and length segments. So if it's like you are given an array, so and you are given any index L, so you will start at L and store answer for a root and block segment, then for a root 2 and block segment, 2 root and block segment, and then for a 3 root and block segment. Okay, so for each of the index and you will just store answer for root and root and segments, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so could anyone realize that it's not so much of a change from usual mode, usual square root decomposition, but it's so powerful. Can you appreciate that? Because now whenever you are given a query LR, you can just start at L, extend this range until there are only less than root and number elements available.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
instead of 3 root n, we do it in 2 root n, kind of.
it's not about the 3 root and thing. It's more about this thing. It's more about, okay, that's a benefit, but that's not why I call it powerful. The reason I call it powerful is I don't have to merge ranges. Okay, it's element only merge. So in case when I can merge this, so I don't have to do it again, right? You got
Yes.
I cannot merge ranges, but I can merge an element. My operations are that way. Suppose for the last, you can solve the last problem using this technique, I think, but you'll have to adjust the block size. So I'm starting at an index and I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm only adding elements. I'm not merging. In the last time we had to merge the ranges, right? But suppose for the inversion example, we cannot merge ranges. Okay, so here we just have to add elements only. You got this? Okay, I
Yes.
remember there was a problem which you could not solve using normal square root decomposition or even using segment phi, which could only be solved using this version. So I cannot find it right now, but I'll find it today or tomorrow and I'll let you all know. So you you got the reason I mentioned it now, this version too, because you are no more worried about merging two ranges. You just have to add few elements at the end of a range.
How do we pre-compute all of these data?
Uh, you just How do we pre-compute? I didn't get that. You just brute force, right?
I mean, like for you have to store for every index, go root and distance, and then find their values.
We can use a 2 pointer for doing the first root and block size assignment.
I got his point. I got his point. He means that how do we get this answer like in a second? Like how do I really had this answer for this
Yes,
block?
yes, sir.
Okay, so I have answer for L minus 1 to L minus 1 plus root n, right? I can get it from here. I just have to delete an element from left and add an element from right. You got me?
Yeah, got it.
So for the first range, I can do it myself. And then it's just DP. Nothing DP, it's just a fancy term. So I'll
It's like
delete this element
two
and I'll,
pointers.
yeah. So even in this version, you can store a heavy amount for each range too, but then you will have to adjust the block size. You will have to do the actual computation, actual changes. Okay, actual. You will have to find the actual time complexity and find the block size according to that. Okay. So it's now Moore's algorithm. So you all guys want a break, a short break maybe. You can continue it later on. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start on 7-1 or 7-2 again. Okay. I'll mute it. Hello, are you all here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we shall start. Where is that? Ah,
Okay, I have a doubt.
yeah.
Like while you said that pre-computing, we can merge all the element between I and I plus root n to the other ranges. But there would be around root n ranges, so won't it be n square total?
What? Can you,
So
where? Give me a minute. Where? Here in version 2.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In version 2, like for computing for the ith element, uh, I would go to the I plus root nth element, and all the ranges in them we merge all the values in between them, right?
Yeah.
But there are around root n such ranges at I plus root nth level,
Okay.
and there are root n elements between I and I plus root n.
Okay.
So we go through all of them and then merge them to every range. So that
No,
would be
the okay. I understood. So you are saying that there are root n segments here.
yes, yes.
Okay, starting at I, and for each segment has size. For each segment, you will need on time. That is the length of the segment. Itna time to compute.
No, 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 no. I'm saying that while computing it for the ith element, uh, all of these values, we are going to the I plus root nth element, right?
Okay.
Like in DP, you said,
Okay.
and every element in between them are going to be merged with all the ranges that has all the ranges of the I plus root nth level. Index.
I didn't really understand. Okay. Can you give me an example? Like suppose there's
Suppose,
an array
yeah.
1, 2,
Oh,
3, 4, 5, 6,
hmm.
7, 8, and suppose the square root n is 2. So
Yes. So I go to so suppose I am computing for level index 3.
okay, index 3.
Hmm. So I go 3 plus 2.
Okay, Didi, 1 minute. एक second, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute.
Yes,
Somebody.
yes.
Uh, yeah. Uh, Hi. Go ahead.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are starting at you are starting at third index, right?
Yes, third index, and the block size is say 2.
Okay.
So we will go to position 5,
Okay.
and there would be ranges like 5 plus 2, 5 plus 4, 5 plus 6.
5 plus 2, 5 plus 4, 5 plus 6.
Hmm.
Why would there be? Okay, there would be 5 plus 6. Okay. Why would,
No, 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 not like that. Um, I was saying, suppose that the length should be like, okay, from this array only, it would store 5 plus 6, 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so so here there are two elements, but
Okay.
in a general array, there would be root n elements,
Okay.
and the number of elements between 3 and 5 is also root n.
Okay. 3 and 5. Okay. There are root n elements.
Hmm. So as we are doing element-wise merging, we
Okay.
we would take each element in between 3 and 5 and merge it to each of the ranges.
Okay. No. 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 We are not doing any element wise merges, and while pre-computing.
But if we can actually do range merging, then why we don't do it in query time?
No, because that's costly. We are pre-computing it. We are pre-computing each block just so that we'll have to only. I mean, we can do it, but it would cross the time limit, right?
Yes, yes, it is crossing time limit.
Yeah, that's why we use a different approach here. Suppose we are uh, just just the thing I told the other guy, or probably you yourself. So suppose we are computing 3 5, so I'll know 2 4, and then I'll add 5 and I'll remove 2.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll get the value for 3 5. I'll have to remove one element and I'll
Oh, acha, acha. Okay. So
okay.
we are considering the removal is possible. So we are
Yeah,
trying
but
to.
there are many ways that you can get to, you can figure the value of it easily.
Acha, acha.
Just a single element removal and single element addition. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and one more thing here, you cannot support updates probably. Can you? You can actually. Yeah, you can support updates too. That's not an issue. Sorry. Okay, so I'll come to Moz now. So Moz is very standard algorithm, and if you are attending this class, there is a high chance that you probably know of Moz algorithm. So, but I'll go a little deeper, not a lot. In Moz, what Moz does is it solves the queries offline. But what I mean by offline is that you are given all queries beforehand and you are asked to answer at the end. So you are given all the queries and you can answer. They give you all the queries and you are allowed to answer all of them later. So that is offline queries. So online queries is you are given a query, LIRI. Only when you answer it, I'll give you the other query. That is online query. Only when you answer this query, I will let you know of the other query. So, and offline queries is I will give you all the queries at hand and then you can answer them all together later. So most solves online queries. So what we need for Moz is we should be able to add and delete from front and end of the range. Okay. So Moses brute force. Moses brute force. So what we do is we there is no root n in Moz. There is nothing. Just consider that you have so many queries, 1 2 2 3 so on, and suppose you have this query and you have this query. Suppose you have answer for this query, right? And the next query is this. So you will remove all these elements from the range. Okay, if you are asked to calculate the sum, you will remove all these elements from sum. So now the range that I will be remain with is this, and I have to get this. So I'll add sum of all these elements until I get this. Okay. So I can transform one segment to another by adding and deleting element. Okay, that's okay, right? That brute force is okay. So that will take q into n time. That's okay for all of you, right?
What if a query is overlapping the other? Like we have a query in between them.
So it is, so we can always add or delete elements, right? Because for suppose if I have the answer for the outside query, so I can delete all these elements and I can delete all these elements one by one. I can bring that pointer here and I can bring that pointer here. Okay. If I have the answer for inside query and I have to get the answer for this query, then I can add all these elements by brute force. We don't have to do anything fancy. And I can add all these elements to get the answer for the bigger range. So what I'm trying to say is that given any segment, we can do some addition and deletion operations to transform it into other range, any other range. Okay, so suppose you start with a range, 0 0, whose answer you know the answer for 0 0, and then you transform this range to query 1, then you transform that range to q2, then q, whatever you call it, qq. Okay, so each transformation from one to other will take and o(n) time, right? Because you may have to delete and add at most o(n) elements, and there are q such ranges, so q into n time. That's okay for all of you, right? It's the brute force approach. Should I erase it? Okay. Okay, so what we will consider now is we'll order the queries in a way that is easier for us. So what I'll do is, this is my array, and I'll divide them into blocks of size √n. So blocks of size √n, and I have all the queries li, ri. So I'll group queries together. So all the queries that have their L in the first block, I will answer them together. All the queries that have their L in the second block, I'll answer them together. Okay. Like this. So all the queries that have their L in the second block, I'll answer them together. So I'll just sort them. By the block they lie in. Okay, so all queries with li lie in a block and are kept together. Okay, and what I do is, if this is my divided array, so for each block I first of all I sort all these by the block length, and then I for any two queries that lie in the same block, I sort them by r, by their end length. Okay, so what happens is, for each block I have the query sorted by r, right? So whenever I move my left iterator, and I keep two iterators left and right, that keeps track of the segment left and segment right. Okay, so whenever suppose I have to move this segment to transform this segment to this, so left iterator moves here and my right iterator moves here, adding all these elements, deleting all these elements. Okay, so so again to recap, I group all of the segments in a block, block wise. So all the segments that are in a block are processed together, and in a block I process the segments in increasing order of their right endpoint. So if there were a query here like this, then I would have processed this one first, then I would have processed this one because of its endpoint, then I would have processed this one. So now if you consider this, then when you are inside a block, your right iterators only moves forward, right? Because the lines are sorted by. Okay, to give you a recap, suppose consider there is an array, and there are so many segments here that are whose right hand is sorted. So right hand is sorted, and even if there is here, so whose right hand is sorted, so this one is first, this one is second, this one is third. okay, and its size is x. This block size is x. So what will happen is, because the right hand is sorted, I'll only increase my right pointer. I will never decrease it. So my right pointer will increase by on. Okay, and for any two carries, I can either increase or I can decrease my left pointer, because suppose from 1 to 2, when I go from 1 to 2, I'll have to increase my left pointer, but when I go from 2 to 3, I'll have to decrease my left pointer. So for each query, I'll take ox time, o root n time, root n for the block size, or if my block size is x is equals to root n, then I'll take ox time, right? So for each query, I take ox time for the left pointer, that is oq into x time in total, and for each block, I take on time, because right pointer only moves to the right and never turns left. So I take on time for all the blocks, for all blocks separately. So what I get is, if x is equals to root n, then I get the time complexity O q plus n root n. Okay, is that understood? Is anyone even here? I'll have to check.
Yes, sir.
Yes, understood.
So let's consider next thing. But can anyone tell me if O n plus q root q is the right thing? Okay, can you not reduce it further from n plus q root q? Okay, sorry. It's not n plus q root q, it's n plus q root n. That's problematic. N plus q root n is actually problematic. Okay, so the thing is, it's not optimal, because in many problems, when you are supposed to process very heavy queries with high overhead, you are maybe given n is equals to 10 raised to 5, 3 into 10 raised to 5, but q is equals to 10 raised to 4. Because even if they assume that you are supposed to solve the queries by using a 2D segment trees or whatever, 2D segment tree or whatever. The queries are so high overhead, so they ask you lesser number of queries, but then you'll have to realize the fact that it it, it doesn't change. The time complexity is same. It's independent of the number of queries. If the queries are less, you don't get any benefit here. What I mean is, so if you just choose a block size of length n by root q, you will get O and root q, and keep that in mind always. Always choose a block size of length n by root q. It's faster than choosing a block size of root n in MOS. So you can see the difference, right? It's n root q here, and it's n root n there. So if we have less number of queries, then this is beneficial. This thing right here. Okay. Okay. Algorithm. So one more thing to add here in Mohs algorithm is that uh, suppose this is my left pointer that goes in a zigzag motion for each query, and this is my right pointer that only moves forward. Okay, so this is my sorting algorithm that I use for normal MOS. where if the block size are different, for two segments, then I keep the one before that lies in the former block. Otherwise, I sort these lines by their if they lie in the same block, then I sort them by their right endpoint. Okay, so this is the normal MOS sorting. But the problem here is that suppose the left hand is moving in zigzag motion, okay, and the right pointer is going forward. But when you enter the second block, the right pointer will have to come back because it might be just this, okay. Then right pointer have to come back, and then it will still start moving forward, okay. So if we just tweak this algorithm a little, and if we sort by R right endpoint for odd blocks, and if we sort by right endpoints for even blocks in opposite order, even blocks are opposite, then the scenario would be different, because if this is a block and this is a block, so my right endpoint went here, my query started from here, and my queries went up to here. So my right endpoint went here, and I have a query here, I have a query here, and I have another query. So now since it's sorted in reverse order, so I can directly answer this query rather than going back there and starting to come back here. So I can answer this query, then this query, then this query, then this query. So the time complexity is still the same, but there you get a lighter overhead. So this part is faster. This part is faster than this. It is faster. The later part. Although usually beginners use the first part, the second is good. Better. Okay, so I thought of explaining Gilbert's order, but for now let it sink. We are already running out of time. So what happens in Gilbert order? You can go through the. I thought of explaining it, but we are running out of time. So just remember that in Gilbert's order, you do not do anything extra, but you use a different sorting function that sorts the queries in an amazing order, and you get the same complexity. You get the same complexity of n root q, but this is faster. This is a little bit faster than the usual MOS. So if your usual MOS is unable to pass the time limit, use Hilbert's comparator. So that is not much different, just the comparison sorting function, sorting comparator. Okay. Okay, so do you want me to go over the advanced part, or should I record it later, maybe next week after you try your hands on the problem?
Maybe next week it will be better.
Yeah, okay. So let's finish it now. I'll upload this video, and I'll upload the contest will start at 9, or maybe I'll delay it by an hour or something, and then we can probably discuss the rest of it next week. Okay, we can solve the contest problems too, maybe next week. Okay. Okay then.
Yes.
How to stop recording?
It was at the same place.